Do you need a burning bush moment to know if you're called to missions? What if God is already calling and you just didn't know? My name is David, and this is Generation Echo. Today, we're talking about calling because there are people who may feel drawn towards missions, but don't know if it's really God. Others feel like they've never been called, but maybe that's because they're waiting for something that doesn't always happen the way that they expect. So in this video, we're going to look at what calling is and isn't, how God has called people in Scripture, and what it might look like for you, and what to do if you're not called to go. Most people imagine calling as some kind of dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime moment, a voice from heaven, a lightning bolt, a vivid dream that gives step-by-step instructions. But for a lot of people who end up on the mission field, it wasn't like that. There wasn't a single moment, but there was a slow burn, a growing burden, a repeated yes to God. Calling doesn't always come with clarity. Sometimes it just starts with conviction. And here's what we forget. You don't need a sign in the sky when the Bible already has a verse for you. Jesus already gave the command, go and make disciples of all nations. So maybe the better question isn't, am I called? Maybe it's, am I willing to go if I am? Because calling is less about how you feel and more about how you respond. So how does God call people? Let's take a look at 4 ways he's done it in Scripture and what that might mean for you. First, sometimes God calls through a burden. You don't necessarily hear a voice, you just can't shake it. That's what happened with Nehemiah. He wasn't a prophet, he was a cupbearer. But when he heard about the broken walls of Jerusalem, he wept. He fasted, he prayed, and that burden, it led him to a mission. If you hear about unreached people groups and it hits something deep in your heart, that might not be random. That might be the beginning of your calling. God often starts with a broken heart before he gives a bold assignment. Sometimes God calls through ordinary obedience. You're doing your job, you're living your life, and God redirects you. Moses was watching sheep when he saw the burning bush. Amos was tending sycamore trees. Peter, Andrew, James, and John, they were fishing. They weren't at a missions conference. They weren't reading a book on calling. They were just faithful in what was right in front of them. And God said, now, come follow me. God doesn't wait for you to be extraordinary. He calls ordinary people who are already listening. So sometimes God calls through a burden. Sometimes God calls through obedience in the ordinary. Thirdly, sometimes God calls us through availability. You don't feel ready, but you're willing. And that was Isaiah. He saw the holiness of God and heard the question, who shall I send? Who will go for us? And Isaiah said, here I am, send me. He didn't know where. He didn't know how he was going to do it. He just knew that God was looking for someone and he was available. God rarely gives the whole map. He just asks for the next step. Lastly, sometimes God calls through interruption. You weren't heading toward missions at all, and then God stops you in your tracks. That's what happened to Saul, who later became Paul. He was actively opposing the church, killing Christians when Jesus confronted him. His whole life was turned upside down. He redirected to become one of the greatest missionaries who ever lived. God doesn't just call people who are looking for him. Sometimes he interrupts people who are going the wrong way and turns them around for his purpose. So what about you? You don't need a burning bush. Maybe the ache you feel for something more is the call. Not everyone is called to go overseas, though. What if I'm not? Every believer is called to be a part of the mission. Missions is not about geography. It's about obedience. So if you're not called to go, here's how you can still engage. You can pray for the unreached. Follow this page and we'll pray with you. You can give financially to support those who are going. Your generosity fuels the mission. You can send and encourage missionaries in the field. Be a lifeline. You can mobilize others, share videos like this, have conversations, stir people's hearts, and live missionally right now. Before God calls you to the nations, he calls you to your neighbor, your job, your school, your street. It's all a mission field. You might not be the one crossing the bridge, but you could be the one who built it. If you're still unsure, here are 4 simple questions. Am I willing to go if God calls me? Am I praying about it, or am I avoiding it? And lastly, am I living like the Great Commission applies to me right now? If the answer is yes to any of those questions, you don't need all the answers. You just need to take the next step. The harvest is ready, the workers are few, and the call is going out. Are you listening? If you're wrestling with this, don't do it alone. We created Generation Echo to help you figure this out. So subscribe to the channel, comment below, do you think you might be called? Why or why not? Share this video with someone else asking the same question. And if you're ready to explore further, go to our site and join the Discord. You don't need to have perfect clarity. You need courage. So let's build the bridge. Let's carry the flame. Let's go.